Hello, everyone, and welcome to F5 Demos. F5 Demo Days is a program designed to make you familiar with the power of the F5 Distributed Cloud solution. In these short demo sessions, we will show you how easy it is to enable SaaS-based security services, such as Web Application Firewall, API security, bot defense, and DDoS mitigation. I'm Mohammed Sha'af, Solution Architect at F5, and I will be your host for today's session. Before we get started, just a few housekeeping items to note. If at any time throughout the session you experience issues with audio or slides, try to refresh or even restart your browser. Sometimes switching to a different browser may also result in a better experience. If you have any questions throughout the presentation, please submit them in the Q&A box. We will conduct a live Q&A session at the end to answer questions on today's topic. The topic for today's session is applying the easy button for API security, and our presenter today is Matthew Derrick, who is a solution architect at F5. And over to you, Matthew.
Thank you, Shat. Welcome, everyone. Let's start. So the topic, as Shat said, is how to protect an API easily with F5 Distributed Cloud. So in the two previous sessions for F5 Demo Days, Raffaele presented and did a demo on how to expose an application. Okay, in our demos, we use an application called Sentence. It's a very simple application, just generating a sentence from 4 words coming from 4 microservices. So Raffaele presented how to expose the application on the F5 Distributed Cloud platform. And on the second session, Shat, your MC today, presented how to protect the application. Okay, so the first pillar of a WAP, web application and API protection. Today, the second pillar is API security or API protection. And I will cover 2 topics. The first one is how to protect API from a traditional way, okay? And the second one is how to leverage AI, artificial intelligence, machine learning, and how to discover APIs. Okay, those are the 2 topics I'm going to cover in the next 3 slides. And then we're gonna do the demonstration. So first of all, in 2022, the way to protect API is changing. Okay, we used to protect API thanks to the Swagger file, okay, or the Open API specification file. It's exactly the same file. Sometimes I'm gonna use Swagger, sometimes I'm gonna use Open API spec file. It's the same file, okay? It's a file provided by API developers. And when the API is updated with a new endpoint, for instance, then a new Swagger file is issued, generated, and pushed to the NetOps or SecOps. So with the F5 Distributed Cloud, we will enable API protection on the Sentence application in order to protect against OWASP API top 10. Okay, you may know that there is an OWASP top 10 for web, and there is now an OWASP API top 10 as well. So the second bullet point, as you can see, is importing with Swagger, something that I know. Okay, so if I know how the API is structured, then I can protect it. Then I will do some advanced protection. I will do some advanced analysis, okay, thanks to the machine learning engines, thanks to some artificial intelligence engines. So we're gonna do some response analysis, forensics in case of attacks. We will do as well discovery. This is part of the demo, how to discover shadow APIs, for instance. And we'll see as well the analytics, okay, the dashboarding. So let's start with the first protection, the traditional way to protect an API. A Swagger file is an API, let's say written, okay, generated by API developers. So they don't write it manually, okay? It's done by their API developer tool, okay? So every time they update a version of the API, this Swagger file is updated. So as you can see on the screen, on the screenshot, API sentence is very simple, and I will do a demo. And the API sentence has a version 1 of the Swagger. Then we're going to have a version 2 because developer decided to add new words in the sentence. So this Swagger file can be uploaded manually into the UI, the user interface. It's what we're gonna do in the demo, but we can do it completely automatic, okay, thanks to Distributed Cloud Platform API and with the CI/CD pipeline, for instance. So Chat in the previous demonstration demonstrated how to protect sentence application with the UI, but also thanks to a CI/CD pipeline. The second protection is, let's say, the 2022, 2023, and beyond protection. So we will rely, on top of the Swagger, we will rely on engines. So the platform, first of all, will automatically learn, okay, API. So the platform will check if what we know is what we see. Okay, so API dev provide with a Swagger file. So we expect to have, let's say, 4 APIs because I have 4 words in my sentence. The red cat of the beautiful valley, for instance. Okay, this is 4 words. But this learning will tell us, oh, I don't see the color, or I see another word that is not part of the Swagger. Okay, this is a learning. And thanks to the AI and the ML, we're gonna have alerts, okay, recommendation, and a SecOps will be able to do an action, okay? If there is a shadow API, I'm going to show you what is a shadow API. It will be able to rate limit access to the API. If he is not confident, he doesn't want to block access to the API because perhaps there is a miss of communication or lack of communication between API dev and SecOps. So it will just rate limit access to the API, or it can decide to block the API, okay? So this engine, we call it at F5 API discovery, with discover APIs, shadow APIs, unused API. Let me show you in a few minutes. And as well, at the end, it's not mandatory. The SecOps can export the Swagger file from this discovery. So let's say the communication between SecOps and API dev is not so good. The SecOps can decide to export the Swagger from what has been learned and enforce the Swagger file. Okay, so very easy. So just one screenshot, but the demo may be better. As you can see here, it's part of the API, so OWASP API top 10, and this is a category 9. It's called improper asset management. Okay, so something that I should know, something that I see and I don't know. So as you can see on the left side of the first screenshot, you can see 3 colors: dark blue, bright blue, and red. Okay, so this is a discovery. The dark is something that I know thanks to the Swagger. The blue one, the bright one is something that I see. Okay, so it's consumed by users, by consumers, and the red one is shadow API. It's something that I don't know at all. It's not part of the Swagger. It's not part of the inventory, so it should not be there. And on the right side, on the screenshot on the right side, this is where we're gonna make some actions. Okay, so rate limiting, blocking, temporary blocking. So just a reminder, if you attend the session 1 with Raffaele, the session 2 with Chat, you know the demo infrastructure. So what we have on the top right corner, you can see we have admins. Okay, so I will be the admin today. I will be a SecOps. We have an application that is sentence application. Is deployed in Azure, if I'm not wrong. Okay, so it's on the internet, and my customer F5 wants to protect this sentence. To do so, we rely on the F5 global network. So we have 20 POPs all over the world. I'm based in Paris, so I guess my request will arrive either to Paris data center or Frankfurt data center. Okay, so it's completely distributed across all the data centers in the world, F5 data centers. Then we have the consumers. Okay, so let's say we have consumers in France, we have consumers in Germany. Based on their localization, geolocalization, they will join the closest, thanks to the BGP. So as you can see, I have an FQDN. My goal is to protect this FQDN thanks to the F5 Distributed Cloud Platform. Let's do the demo. So let me share my screen now. Here we are. Okay, so now you should see another screen with the demo. Let's do it. So this is the F5 Distributed Cloud Platform portal, the console. So like on the previous session, as you can see here, Raffaele already created the sentence load balancer, okay, the sentence application. It's a web application, okay? It's just a web application generating and displaying a sentence with 4 words, okay? So Raffaele already exposed the application and chat protected the application for the web, for browser base. API is not only browser, okay? So API, we require a second FQDN. Why? Because I want to protect only the API that a mobile application or machine to machine will consume, okay? So let's create a new load balancer. I use exactly the same FQDN, except I had as a prefix API dash HTTPS, and now let's reuse the same backend, okay? Origin pool. The origin pool is a destination server. It's exactly the same, okay? It's my application in Azure, so I reuse the same object from Raffaele. Then security section. In the security section, I will reuse what Chat did in the previous session. He created a WAF policy with, if I'm not wrong, a custom blocking page. Okay, so it's blocking mode. So yeah, exactly. It's what Chat did last time, so I will reuse it. Okay, I will not recreate another policy because this one is perfect. Let's switch to the advanced view. The first things to do is just for demo purpose, I will enable identifier of the user thanks to XFF, okay? Because I want to have only one IP address in the dashboarding for the demo today. So let's use XFF. Then as you can see, straightforward, one menu, API definition. Let's create a new API definition. So I give a name to the definition. So a definition is a bucket where I will upload Swagger files. Okay, so let's start. Let's start with the first Swagger that API dev provided to me. Okay, so let's call it OS, Open API Spec, sentence, and I will upload the version 1. You can see I have several versions. Let's start with version 1. For your information, this version does not include the color. If you remember, I told you it's 4 words. It's an adjective, beautiful, an animal, cat, a color, red, and a location, valley. So here we don't have the color. It should be the beautiful cat of the valley because it's a version 1 of the app. So this is what API dev delivered to me. Okay, it's there. So now I just have to save, and we are good. Okay, so far so good. You can see the API definition is there. I'm good. Okay. The last option is the discovery. If you remember my presentation, 2 levels of protection, the traditional one thanks to the Swagger, and the modern one thanks to the AI, the ML engine. So here I enable API discovery and malicious user detection. You're gonna see it's an amazing engine. Okay, so I enable both of them. Finish. My load balancer is created. My API is protected. Let's make a test, okay? So, you know, to test API, unfortunately, it's not very visual, okay? We need to use an API tool, and I use Postman over there. So look at the FQDN. I will make a call to the locations of the sentence. Remember, the sentence is the beautiful cat of the valley or of the park. So it's working, okay? So I'm just targeting, requesting the locations. I can request the adjective. So far so good. Now if I request the full sentence, I have the full sentence. The proud mouse of the green park. Okay. Okay. Perfect. So it's working well. The API is exposed, protected, thanks to the WAF from Chat, and thanks to my configuration, I should have as well an API protection. So what I'm gonna do now, I will generate traffic. Okay, so this is just a runner, as you can see, making calls on all the endpoints, and on purpose, as you can see, I'm requesting as well the colors. If you remember, colors is not part of my Swagger, but I'm sending this call on purpose, okay? So let's do it. So it's running, okay? I cut the demo just to don't spend 5 minutes to just wait for the result. Okay, so now I should have traffic analytics on my load balancer. So you can see the two load balancers, the one from Rafael and mine, this one. Okay, so one just for API and one just for the web. Same dashboard as the web. Okay, so let's refresh it. You can see requests for mainly France. I can see Corsica and some countries over there. Okay, classification. I have some bots, looks like, and some malicious users. Let's see later on. Security events. Nothing new. If you attend chat demonstration, this is where we have the security events. 4 categories, as you can see on the top left corner: WAF, bot defense, API, and service policy. Service policy is positive security. Okay, so I have an attack on the /API/animals. Okay, it's my runner. My runner sends good and bad traffic. You can see it's a cross-site scripting. And you notice the signature ID, chat demonstrated it last time. It's a big IP signature ID. Okay, so it's exactly the same signature ID in Distributed Cloud, in Nginx, and in Big IP. Malicious user. This is an amazing tool. Okay, it's a protection that is analyzing traffic from sources. Okay, so you can see here I have several sources based on X484. Okay, so different IP addresses. And as you can notice, this source triggers several times WAF violation. So the score, you can see its suspicious score is growing. Okay, so based on the score, I can decide to rate limit, to block, to challenge with a JavaScript, challenge with a CAPTCHA. So I can do many things, mainly for the web. Okay, for API, JavaScript does not work, so it's mainly blocking, but it's completely automatic thanks to the engine. Then the API endpoints. So as you can see here in blue, it's my Swagger. This, we call it inventory, something that I know thanks to the API developer. I imported the Swagger, and you can see adjectives, animals, locations, and sentence, but not colors, because it's not part of the version 1 that I uploaded. Okay? But after a few minutes, you can see that the machine learning learned something. And it tells me, oh, I can see some endpoints that are not part of the Swagger. Okay? So 9, you can see discovered on the top left, 9 are discovered, 4 are shadow. Okay? So let's go to the details here. Let's focus on the shadow because I'm a SecOp. And I would like to block this endpoint because I opened a ticket on ServiceNow with API Dev, and they told me, oh no, Mathieu, it's not yet ready, so it should not be published on the internet. So automatically, the platform opened a new window for me, and I just have to give a name, and that's it. As you can see, it's already populated by the platform, by the console. So I just apply, and now I have an API protection rule. And consumers are not supposed anymore to reach these endpoints. So let's make a test, okay? So now on my client, I will try to reach the color. It used to work, now it doesn't work anymore. For free, forbidden. So I was able to, in few minutes, I was able to update my API security thanks to the discovery, the learning. Okay, I don't have to wait from the API dev to upload a new Swagger file somewhere that I can upload in the platform. Now, if I go back to the security event, I should see something, a new kind of event, okay? And you can see it's an event type API in brown. Yeah, I think it's brown, the color, okay? And that's been denied. Why? Because /API/color is not allowed anymore, okay? So denied. Straightforward, okay? In a few minutes, I was able to do it. Now, let's say API dev deliver a new Swagger file, okay? So this used to be the V1. As you can see on the right, there is no colors. It's a version 1 that I uploaded at the beginning of this demo. Now let's switch to the version 2. API dev now documented the color, okay? So inside the color now, I have details. So let's go to the Swagger. And I very easily, as you can see, I can update a new version. So I select the version 2, save and exit, and now I have two versions of this Swagger, the V1 and the V2. Okay, you can see exactly the date and the time when I uploaded it. Now, in my definition, remember the definition is a bucket, okay? I just have to tell, oh, switch to version 2. Don't use anymore the version 1, use the version 2. And it's done. That's it. Okay? So I don't have to go to the load balancer and change any configuration because the load balancer refers to the definition, and the definition is already updated with the new Swagger file. That's it. Let me stop my sharing. You're in mute, chat.
Thanks, Matthew, for the great presentation and demo. Let's go over the questions we have received during the session.
Sure.
So the first question is, why combining Swagger protection and AI ML protection?
Yeah, so it's a good question. I did try to explain why it's important. Today, unfortunately, for us, for SecOps, it's difficult to keep a policy up to date for API because API are updated every day sometimes, and sometimes it's every hour. So if we have several environments with production, pre-production, qualification, if we only rely on the Swagger, we're going to have false positive. We're going to have false positive because new API will be exposed from API developer. API developer expects those API to be consumed by certain kind of clients, okay, or consumers, and the platform will block it if we only rely on a Swagger. So that's why in 2022, 2023, it's important to rely on engines that will learn what is going on, what is passing through the platform, and will make some suggestions, okay? So it's not completely automatic, okay? The SecOps still have to make decisions, but it's a recommendation thanks to many information that we have from the platform to know if we rely 100% to the ML or not.
Right, thank you, Matthew. So is a regional edge dedicated to a company or user, or it is shared between customers and multi-tenancy is used?
So I think we're talking about the RE. So we have 20 REs that are shared between all the customers, of course, but your tenant, your data are completely isolated and encrypted for information.
All right. So another question, I read it as it comes, right? I have is that probably even without Swagger file, the AI can discover the API endpoints. But does it report API security vulnerabilities like credentials being sent in plain text or accessing API points without authorization headers?
Great question. It's called PII, okay, in API world. So as of today now, stay tuned in few weeks. So yeah, PII will be included in few weeks in the platform in order to detect keywords and, as you said, login and password that are in clear text. It will be completely, or social security numbers. It will be it will be in the next version of the platform. Great question.
All right, another one. So if API /colors was not part of the Swagger file, why it wasn't blocked by default? Why did you need to manually block it?
Exactly. So traditionally, if it was a big IP, let's say, or an Nginx, the Swagger file should have been enforced. Let's use this word. Okay, it's an excellent question. Why I did not enforce the Swagger? This is the question. For one reason, because API dev can update their APIs every day. If I enforce the Swagger, let's say I enforce the Swagger without API colors, yes, the /API/color will be blocked. And it's what we used to do. It's what we used to see traditionally on the traditional API protection solution. But imagine the API dev had a new API. Not especially /colors, could be something else, /maps, okay? It will be blocked, and we're gonna have fault proof, and the business will be blocked, okay? Will be disrupted. So that's why the API color is not enforced. But to answer the question, I can do it. It's not part of my demo because it was a short demo, but I can enforce the Swagger with a service policy. It's just one step. If I enable the service policy, the Swagger is enforced.
All right, so I've got a comment here. Maybe I will just say it to you. So this means it is considered as a partial API security?
It's not a partial, it's a new way. It's a new way to protect, okay? So it's up to you to decide if you want to do a traditional protection, and you can do it, okay? You can do it, as I said on the previous question. I import the Swagger, I enforce the Swagger. /API/color is blocked. But everything that is out of the scope, out of the Swagger declaration and specification is blocked. This is the traditional way. Up to you to enable the machine learning, okay? So it's not partial, it's just modern way to do it, but it's not partial. It's up to you.
All right, perfect. So where can we get the configuration file?
Sorry? The Swagger file? Can you...
It says the configuration file. Maybe mention the API security configuration.
So the Swagger file is provided by API Dev thanks to their developer toolset. Okay, so when they develop API, they just click on a button, they get the configuration for the specification file. If the developer can't provide such file, and sometimes it can be a challenge, the machine learning is learning the API, and the machine learning can generate the Swagger for you from the F5 Distributed Cloud Platform. So directly from the platform, when the learning is done, if you remember the learning with the 3 colors, I can click on the top right corner and say, download the Swagger and enforce the Swagger, if I want. Okay, so 2 ways to do it. If the communication with developer is good, let's rely on the developer. If the communication is bad or difficult, challenging, rely on the F5 Distributed Cloud Platform.
Okay, so another question says, can F5, it says DX, but it's XC or distributed cloud, create a Swagger file base and compare it with any differences being developed or noticed?
Correct, exactly. So when I download the Swagger file from the Distributed Cloud Platform, it's a package with 3 files. What I know, what I see, what I should not see. So there are 3 Swagger files, to be honest, and up to the SecOps to merge them or only use Shadow up to the SecOps. Okay, so yeah, we deliver 3 files when we download the Swagger from the platform so that SecOps knows exactly what is known, what is seen, and what is not supposed to be seen.
Okay, great. Still have a couple of questions for you. What other API development it supports except Swagger?
So it's a standard. So it's Swagger Open API v2 and v3. It's a standard. Okay, so it's only that because it's the only standard on the market today for API specification.
All right. So if the F5 configuration is delivered as code AS3, for example, is this very quickly out of sync with the runtime in a scenario where an engine AI ML is used?
So yeah, if you are fully automated, okay, let's say like Chad presented in the second session where he created the load balancer via a CI/CD pipelines. It means everything I did today can be done through the pipeline. So it means the pipeline will download the Swagger file from a repository, a GitLab repository, let's say, where AppDev uploaded the GitLab. Then the pipeline will apply the enforce this Swagger. For the machine learning, you're right. It requires a second pipeline. Okay, so it means the second pipeline must run to get the API discovery object and then make a decision. I would say the pipeline should not make the decision. Okay, so the pipeline should deliver the outcomes and someone will accept or not the proposition. It could be just a reporting to the app dev or reporting to the SecOps, but the second pipeline is there to make a decision. You can do it.
Okay, so is SecOps automatically notified when AMI / API maybe / colors gets triggered and not part of the initial Swagger?
There are several notifications inside this with the cloud. We have new notification from the last update. So for information, on the last update, it was August 30th. Now we have the Slack as well. Okay, so yeah, many ways to be notified when something new happens and when there is a violation or when an API is reached, okay, targeted, and it should not.
Okay, how to deploy the APIs in the network infrastructure startup company, how to make it compatible and to set up configuration and the advanced ones?
How to make it compatible to set up configuration? I don't get the full question, but how to deploy the API in the network infrastructure startup companies, how to make it compatible. So first of all, API is a standard, okay? API is a standard, and as you can see, Distributed Cloud is a very easy way to protect an API or web application, okay? So for any company, even a startup that want to protect its API, in few minutes, in less than 5 minutes, as you can see, you can protect your API, okay? And even if you are not confident because it's something new for you, thanks to the machine learning, you can learn the API. Okay, so the Swagger import is not mandatory. You can just switch directly to the ML and AI and rely on this and wait a few more days and enforce when it's learned and finished.
Right, so does F5 XC spot things like broken object level authentication?
So for broken authentication, it's not yet in the current version. Not yet.
Can I automatically apply rate limiting to parts of the API not imported in the API spec file?
Good question. It's a good question. I don't think so. I don't think so today you can do it, but this is part of API 7 in the OWASP top 10, okay, API top 10, so it will be in the product very soon.
Okay, can we use F5 protection using Azure Cloud?
So, yeah, so if I understand correctly the question, it's, if I have an application in Azure Cloud, okay, it could be, it's an application that is hosted in Azure. Of course, this platform protects application everywhere, okay? So It doesn't matter if the application is on premises, okay, in your data center, or if the application is deployed in a Kubernetes in Azure or in an AKS or inside a very traditional Linux machine in Azure. So yeah, of course we protect it. And what's more, it's for the future demo day session with Philip, if I'm not wrong, we'll demo you how you can interconnect Azure Cloud with Distributed Cloud in a private way. Stay tuned.
Yeah, great. Can F5XC integrate with database security?
So no, the answer is no. Okay, I will be sharp. No, we don't do database protection like some vendors, traditional vendors for on-premises.
Do you have RE within EMEA or Africa to address protection of the API traffic within Africa coast and reduce turnaround time?
So there is no RE in Africa currently, okay? But it's something that will be covered in the next session as well. You could, okay, you could deploy your own RE, and we call it a CE at F5, okay? So we call it a customer edge. So it's an RE that you deploy in your own infrastructure. So for Africa, we have been working with several banks in Africa for information. They deploy CE in their countries, okay? So it's not a POP from F5, okay? So it's not firewalls that F5 owns. It's a virtual machine that you deploy somewhere. In Africa, it will be in your data centers because there are few CSP cloud providers in Africa or Middle East. You deploy in your infrastructure, in your VMware, in your data center, okay, in South Africa, on Togo, whatever you want. And then this CE will interconnect with F5 Distributed Cloud, and it becomes a new POP. So instead of having 20 POPs, now you can see 21 POP. This is an amazing architecture for a country like Africa, Middle East, or it could be where we don't have yet POPs.
Okay, so what are the supported API types that F5XC can auto-discover and generate Swagger/Open API files for? I mean, like GraphQL and other.
Currently, good question. Yeah, currently it's a REST API.
Okay, perfect. So that's all we had time for today. For any questions we did not get to, we will contact you directly. With that, we conclude this session of F5 Demo Days. We would like to thank you for joining us today. And I would like also to thank Matthew for the insightful demo and for answering your questions. Look out for an email from us with a link to the recording of today's demo session, and we look forward to seeing you again in our next Demo Days session. If you haven't already, please take a moment to complete the brief survey, which also pop up when the session ends. Thank you again for being with us, and see you next time.